My name is Ethan Mitchell, 28 years old, and I never thought my own family would betray me. After years of hard work and saving every penny, I had finally put together $25,000 for a house down payment. Then my spoiled sister Amanda emptied my account to buy herself an iPhone and other luxuries. Our parents always favored her, but this crossed every line. So I made a decision that changed everything. I returned the new car my parents bought her and kept every dollar. Before I get into this wild story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more stories about standing up for yourself. Growing up in our middle-class neighborhood in Grand Rapids, Michigan, it was always clear who the favorite child was. From the moment Amanda was born when I was 5, my parents treated her like their precious little princess. I don't think I fully understood the difference in our treatment until elementary school, when the pattern became impossible to ignore. While I had to earn my allowance through chores and maintaining good grades, Amanda received twice as much just for existing. My birthday parties were simple backyard affairs with a few friends, but hers were elaborate themed extravaganzas with pony rides and professional entertainers. When I asked why, my mother would just say, "Your sister is more sensitive. She needs more attention." Amanda quickly learned to weaponize this favoritism. By age 7, she had mastered the art of the temper tantrum, knowing exactly how to manipulate our parents. I still remember the day at the mall when I had saved up $30 from mowing lawns to buy a video game. Amanda decided she wanted the same game, despite having no interest in gaming. When our parents suggested she use her allowance, she threw herself on the floor, screaming until her face turned purple. 10 minutes later, she walked out with the game while I was lectured about being the bigger person and sharing with your sister. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. When I turned 16 and asked for help buying a used car, my parents offered to pay a quarter of the cost if I saved the rest. I worked weekends at a grocery store for 8 months to earn my share. 2 years later, when Amanda turned 16, they surprised her with a brand new Honda Civic. No conditions. No expectations. Amanda is a girl. My father explained when I questioned the double standard. She needs reliable transportation for safety reasons. As if my safety had been optional. Despite all this, I tried not to let resentment consume me. I focused on building my own life, working part-time throughout high school and taking out student loans for college. After graduating with a business degree, I landed an entry-level position at a marketing firm and moved into a small apartment with 2 roommates. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine, earned through my own efforts. Meanwhile, Amanda dropped out of community college after 1 semester, claiming it was too stressful. Our parents immediately offered to pay for her apartment so she could find herself. Finding herself apparently involved a lot of shopping, partying, and cycling through a series of equally unmotivated boyfriends. By the time I turned 28, I had worked my way up to marketing manager and was finally making decent money. For 3 years, I lived frugally, bringing lunch to work, limiting nights out, and putting every spare dollar into my savings account. My goal was clear. $25,000 for a down payment on a modest house. No more roommates, no more renting. A place that was truly mine. Last month, I hit that magic number. $25,000 saved. I remember staring at my banking app, feeling a sense of accomplishment I can hardly describe. This wasn't just money, it was years of sacrifice and discipline. It represented freedom. That same week, our parents bought Amanda a brand new Lexus for her 23rd birthday. She had never held a job for more than 3 months. The car cost $32,500, more than my entire savings. When I asked my father how they could afford it, he shrugged and said, "We got a good deal, and your sister needed a reliable car." The Civic they had bought her apparently wasn't good enough anymore. We all gathered for a family dinner to celebrate Amanda's birthday and her new car. While our parents beamed with pride, Amanda spent most of the evening complaining about her outdated iPhone 13. "Everyone has the iPhone 15 Pro Max now," she whined, pushing her food around her plate. My phone is so embarrassing. The camera is practically useless. Our mother patted her hands sympathetically. Maybe for Christmas, sweetie. We just bought you the car. Amanda pouted but dropped the subject. Looking back, I should have recognized the calculating look in her eyes. But I was distracted, excited about finally scheduling appointments with realtors to start my house hunt. If only I had known what was coming next. Monday morning started like any other. I woke up at 6:30, made coffee, and sat down to check my emails before work. I had scheduled my first meeting with a realtor for that afternoon, so I decided to log into my bank account to screenshot my savings balance for the pre-approval process. The moment I saw the number on the screen, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. $7,642. That couldn't be right. Just 3 days ago, the balance had been $25,000. I refreshed the page, hoping it was a glitch. The number didn't change. My hands shaking, I clicked on the account activity. There were 3 separate withdrawals: $8,500 on Friday, $5,300 on Saturday, and $3,558 on Sunday. All in-person withdrawals at different branches of my bank. This had to be fraud. I immediately called the bank's customer service line, my voice barely steady enough to explain the situation to the representative. "Let me look into those transactions for you, Mr. Mitchell," she said. After a minute of typing, she continued, "These withdrawals were made in person at 3 different branches. The person used your debit card and entered the correct PIN each time." "That's impossible," I insisted. "I have my debit card right here." I pulled my wallet out to confirm, and sure enough, my debit card was there. "Do you have any additional cards for this account?" the representative asked. That's when I remembered. I did have a second card, an emergency backup I kept in my fireproof lockbox at home, along with my birth certificate and other important documents. I'd written the PIN on a small card kept in the same box, in case I ever forgot it. "I do have a backup card," I admitted. "But it's secure at my apartment. Nobody could have accessed it. Nobody except family. My parents had a spare key to my apartment. For emergencies." And I had mentioned my savings milestone to them at Amanda's birthday dinner, proud of my achievement. "We can initiate a fraud investigation," the representative offered. "But since the correct PIN was used, and there's no sign of unauthorized entry to your account online, I should warn you that it might be difficult to prove fraud." I thanked her and hung up, my mind racing. I didn't want to believe what I was starting to suspect. But the timing was too coincidental. Amanda complaining about wanting a new iPhone, then 3 large withdrawals immediately after. I called my supervisor to tell her I had a family emergency and wouldn't make it to work. Then I drove straight to the bank's main branch. The manager was sympathetic and agreed to check the security footage from the times of the withdrawals. We sat in her office as she pulled up the footage from Friday afternoon. My stomach dropped when I saw the familiar figure at the teller window, Amanda, wearing large sunglasses and a baseball cap, but unmistakably her. She was handing over my backup debit card. "Do you recognize this person?" the manager asked. I swallowed hard. "That's my sister." The manager showed me footage from the other 2 branches as well. Saturday morning, Amanda withdrawing another chunk of money. Sunday afternoon, a final withdrawal. Each time, she was dressed differently, as if trying to disguise herself, but it was clearly her. "Would you like to file a police report?" the manager asked gently. I sat there, paralyzed by indecision. This was theft, plain and simple. But it was also my sister. Going to the police would mean pressing charges against my own family member. Amanda could end up with a criminal record. Despite everything, I wasn't sure I could do that to her. "I need to talk to her first," I finally said. The manager nodded understandingly. "I'll email you copies of the footage for your records. But I should tell you, if you choose not to file a police report, the bank can help you recover these funds." I drove away from the bank in a daze, my mind toggling between disbelief, rage, and heartbreak. How could she do this? How could she steal my hard-earned money, money she knew was for something important to me? As the initial shock began to wear off, my thoughts turned more practical. What had she spent nearly $18,000 on in just 3 days? The iPhone she wanted would cost around $1,200. Where had the rest gone? There was only one way to find out. It was time to confront my sister. I pulled into my parents' driveway with my heart pounding in my chest. Amanda still lived at home despite the apartment our parents paid for, claiming she got lonely by herself. Her new Lexus was parked in the driveway, gleaming in the afternoon sun, a painful reminder of the different standards we'd always been held to. Taking a deep breath, I walked up to the front door and used my key to let myself in. From the living room, I could hear Amanda's voice, excited and animated. I followed the sound and found her sitting on the couch, surrounded by shopping bags from high-end stores. She was showing something to our mother, who sat beside her with an indulgent smile. "Look at the resolution on this camera," Amanda was saying, holding up a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. "It's like professional quality." Neither of them had noticed me standing in the doorway. I cleared my throat, and they both looked up. "Ethan," my mother said with surprise. "We weren't expecting you." "Shouldn't you be at work?" "I took the day off," I said, my eyes fixed on Amanda. Something came up. Something about money going missing from my account. Amanda's expression flickered momentarily before settling into a carefully crafted look of confusion. "That's weird. Maybe you got hacked or something." "That's what I thought too," I said, stepping further into the room. So I went to the bank. They showed me their security footage. The color drained from Amanda's face, but she quickly recovered. "I don't know what you're talking about." 3 withdrawals. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Nearly $18,000. "You're on camera each time, Amanda." Our mother looked between us, bewilderment turning to concern. "What is he talking about, Amanda?" Amanda's demeanor changed instantly, her confusion transforming into defiance. She tossed her new phone onto the cushion beside her and crossed her arms. "Fine. I borrowed some money. It's not a big deal." "Borrowed?" I repeated incredulously. "You stole my backup debit card, used my PIN, and took almost $18,000 without asking. That's not borrowing. That's theft." "Don't be so dramatic." Amanda rolled her eyes. "You have plenty of money, and I needed it more than you did." I was speechless. The audacity of her statement, the complete lack of remorse or understanding of what she had done, left me momentarily unable to respond. Our mother filled the silence. "Amanda, did you really take money from your brother's account?" "He makes way more than I do," Amanda said defensively. "And everyone already had the new iPhone. I was literally the only person still using last year's model. Plus, I needed new clothes for summer, and some other stuff." "Other stuff that cost $18,000? I found my voice again, anger building with each word. "That was my house down payment, Amanda. Money I've been saving for 3 years." My father walked in, having heard the commotion from his home office. "What's going on in here?" My mother quickly filled him in. To my growing disbelief, my father's first reaction wasn't outrage at Amanda's theft, but an attempt to minimize it. "Now, Ethan, I'm sure your sister didn't mean any harm," he said in the placating tone he'd always used when mediating our childhood disputes. The same tone that had always preceded me being told to be the bigger person, while Amanda got what she wanted. "She stole $18,000 from me," I said slowly, making sure each word was clear. "How exactly did she not mean harm?" My father sighed, sitting down heavily in his recliner. "Of course she shouldn't have taken your money without asking. But calling it stealing makes it sound so criminal." "It is criminal," I insisted. "It's literally a crime." "Let's not get carried away," my mother interjected. "We're family. We can work this out without involving authorities." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So what's your solution? How does Amanda make this right?" My parents exchanged glances. "Well," My father began cautiously. Your mother and I could loan Amanda the money to pay you back some of it now. Maybe 2,000? And then she could pay the rest when she's more financially stable. When has Amanda ever been financially stable? I asked. She's never held a job for more than a few months. She has no income. When exactly would I get my money back? You don't have to be so mean about it, Amanda snapped. It's just money. You were just going to waste it on a boring house anyway. I stared at her, truly seeing her for the first time. This wasn't just about the money. This was about a lifetime of entitlement, of never facing consequences, of believing the rules didn't apply to her. Just money? I repeated. That just money represents 3 years of sacrifices. 3 years of bringing lunch to work instead of buying it. 3 years of saying no to trips with friends because I was saving. 3 years of living with roommates in a cramped apartment, while you complained about the free apartment mom and dad pay for. Ethan, please calm down, my mother said. Getting upset won't solve anything. What would solve this? I said, struggling to keep my voice level. Is Amanda returning the money she stole from me? All of it. Now. Amanda glanced down at her shopping bags, then back at me with defiance. I already spent it. Most of it, anyway. On what? I demanded. The phone was like $1,500. She shrugged. Then I got some clothes from Nordstrom, and shoes, and a Gucci bag I've wanted forever. Oh, and I paid Brady back the money I owed him. And I got these really cute earrings with diamonds. I looked to my parents, waiting for them to express the appropriate level of outrage. Instead, my father cleared his throat and said, Amanda, that wasn't very responsible. That's it. That was their response to their daughter stealing and blowing through my life savings. Not very responsible. I can't believe this, I said, standing up. I can't believe any of you. She committed a crime against me, and you're treating it like she borrowed my sweater without asking. What do you want us to do? My mother asked, spreading her hands. She can't give back money she's already spent. She can sell everything she bought, I suggested. Return what can be returned. Pay me back every cent. That's so unfair, Amanda protested. You can't make me give up my stuff. It's not your stuff, I shot back. It's my stuff, but with my money. My father held up his hands. Let's all take a breath. Amanda was wrong to take the money, absolutely. But Ethan, you have a good job. You can save it again. Amanda doesn't have your financial advantages. And there it was. The same old story. Amanda's actions had no real consequences because I was expected to absorb the impact. I was expected to be the bigger person. Once again, to sacrifice my dreams so Amanda wouldn't have to face any actual repercussions for her choices. She has a brand new Lexus sitting in the driveway, I pointed out. A $32,000 car you bought her while I saved for 3 years to put together $25,000. That's different, my mother said. That was a gift. I looked between the three of them, this family that had always treated me as less than, that had consistently prioritized Amanda's wants over my needs, that was now asking me to simply accept the theft of my savings because inconveniencing Amanda was apparently worse than destroying my dreams. I'm done, I said quietly. I'm absolutely done. I walked out, ignoring their calls for me to come back and discuss this rationally. There was nothing rational about this situation. Nothing rational about the way they were handling it. And nothing rational about the idea forming in my mind as I looked at Amanda's shiny new Lexus in the driveway. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Amanda's dismissive face as she declared she had needed my money more than I did. I heard my parents making excuses for her, minimizing her actions, expecting me to simply accept what had happened and move on. By morning, exhaustion had given way to clarity. This wasn't just about the money anymore. This was about justice, about consequences, about finally breaking the pattern that had defined our family dynamic for 23 years. I called Marcus, my best friend since college, and asked if I could come over to talk. Marcus had witnessed firsthand the disparity in how my parents treated Amanda and me. He'd been there through college when I worked 2 jobs while taking full course loads, as Amanda partied through her single semester before dropping out. "Dude, that's messed up," Marcus said after I explained what had happened. "Have you thought about going to the police?" "I considered it," I admitted. "But it would destroy my parents. And despite everything, I don't want to see Amanda with a criminal record." "So you're just going to let her get away with it? Again?" I shook my head. "No. I'm thinking about an alternative approach. Something that might actually teach her a lesson." I explained my emerging plan. During the confrontation, something my father had said kept repeating in my mind: Amanda's car was a gift. A very expensive gift, worth even more than what she had stolen from me. "The car's still technically in my parents' names," I explained to Marcus. "They bought it outright, but Amanda hasn't even bothered to register it in her name yet. Too much paperwork for her." Marcus whistled. "So you're thinking?" "I'm thinking the registration and spare key are probably still at my parents' house. And I know exactly where they keep that kind of paperwork." "Man, I don't know." Marcus hesitated. "Taking her car? Isn't that also stealing?" It was a fair question, one I had wrestled with all night. "It's not stealing if it belongs to my parents. I'm just returning their gift. And if I return it to the dealership, they'll give them back most of what they paid for it." "And you think that's equivalent to what she did to you?" "She took something valuable from me without permission. Something I had worked for years to achieve. Why shouldn't she experience the same loss?" Marcus considered this. "I get it. I do. But are you sure this is the best way? What about just taking her to small claims court?" "That would take months," I pointed out. "And my parents would just pay whatever the court ordered. Amanda wouldn't learn anything. She needs to feel this, personally. She needs to understand what it's like to have something important taken away." After more discussion, Marcus reluctantly agreed that my plan had merit. But he insisted on one condition. "Promise me you'll deposit whatever money you get from returning the car into a separate account. Don't spend it. That way, if this all blows up and you change your mind, you can give it back." I promised. This wasn't about getting money for myself. This was about consequences. Over the next 2 days, I prepared carefully. I drove by my parents' house while everyone was out and used my key to get in. As expected, the car registration and spare key were in my father's desk drawer, neatly organized in a folder labeled Amanda's Lexus. I learned that Amanda worked 3 days a week at a boutique near the mall, usually closing shifts. On Thursday, I waited until 9:30 p.m., when I knew she would be at work and my parents would be at their weekly dinner with friends. Driving to their house, I felt surprisingly calm. This wasn't an impulsive act of revenge. This was a calculated response, a lesson in consequences that Amanda had never received from our parents. The Lexus sat in the driveway, gleaming under the streetlights. I approached it, key in hand, half expecting someone to stop me. But the street was quiet. I unlocked the car, adjusted the seat to fit my taller frame, and started the engine. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror at my parents' house. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I really doing this? Was I crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed? Then I remembered Amanda's words. "You were just going to waste it on a boring house anyway." The dismissive way she had trivialized my dreams, my years of hard work and sacrifice. The way my parents had enabled her, yet again, at my expense. My resolve strengthened. This wasn't just about money. This was about breaking a toxic pattern. Sometimes, the only way to stop enabling behavior is to introduce real consequences. I drove directly to the luxury car dealership where my parents had purchased the Lexus. It was closed, of course, but I knew they opened at 8:00 a.m. the next day. I parked the Lexus in their lot, locked it, and called an Uber to take me back to my apartment. Tomorrow would change everything. For better or worse, The dynamics in our family were about to shift permanently. I arrived at the dealership 10 minutes before they opened, having barely slept the night before. The Lexus was exactly where I'd left it, untouched. I sat in my car across the street, watching as employees began arriving, unlocking doors, turning on lights. At precisely 8 a.m., I walked into the showroom, car key in hand. A sales associate approached with a practiced smile. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you today? Looking for a new vehicle?" "Actually, I'm here to return one," I said, holding up the key. "A 2025 Lexus ES, purchased here last month." His smile faltered slightly. "Return? I'll need to get my manager for that." 5 minutes later, I was seated in the manager's office, a middle-aged man named Richard looking at me with confusion. "This is highly unusual, Mr. Mitchell. We don't typically take returns on vehicles after they've left the lot. There's depreciation to consider, paperwork." "I understand," I said. "But this is a special circumstance." The car was purchased by my parents as a gift from my sister. It's still in their names, never registered to her. It has less than 300 miles on it. And there are family issues that make returning it necessary. Richard frowned, looking at the paperwork I'd brought. "This is all technically in order. The registration is still in your parents' names. But I would need their authorization to process any return or buyback." I had anticipated this. My father asked me to handle this for them. I lied smoothly. "They're traveling right now. But you can call them if you need verbal confirmation." I was taking a calculated risk. If Richard called my parents immediately, the whole plan would fall apart. But I was counting on two things: dealership eagerness to resell a practically new luxury vehicle, and the natural human tendency to avoid awkward confrontations. Richard studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Let me take a look at the vehicle first. If it's in the condition you say, we might be able to work something out." He inspected the Lexus thoroughly, noting the pristine condition and low mileage. After consulting with the dealership owner, he returned with an offer. "We can issue a cashier's check for $32,500. That's $4,000 less than your parents paid, which covers our processing fees and the depreciation." I nodded. "That's fair. Make the check out to cash, please." Another risky moment, but Richard merely raised an eyebrow before nodding. "I'll need you to sign some paperwork on behalf of your parents. And I'll need the spare key as well." An hour later, I walked out of the dealership with a cashier's check for $32,500 and a receipt for the return. I drove straight to a different bank than the one I normally used and opened a new account, depositing the entire amount. This time, there would be no spare card, no written PIN, no access for anyone but me. As I was leaving the bank, my phone exploded with notifications. 12 missed calls from Amanda. 8 from my mother. 5 from my father. Dozens of text messages, ranging from confused to frantic to furious. The most recent one, from Amanda. "Where is my car? Someone stole it. Call me now." I didn't call. Instead, I went to my apartment, packed an overnight bag, and checked into a hotel. I needed neutral territory for what would come next. I needed space to think clearly, away from the emotional manipulation that had defined my family relationships for so long. Around 6 p.m., I finally answered one of Amanda's calls. "Where have you been?" she screeched, her voice so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "My car is gone. Someone stole it from Mom and Dad's driveway. We've called the police. They're looking for it right now." "No one stole your car, Amanda," I said calmly. "I returned it to the dealership." Silence. Then, "You what?" "I returned the Lexus to the dealership. They issued a refund." "You can't do that." She exploded. "That's my car. You had no right." "Actually, it wasn't your car. It was Mom and Dad's car. They're the ones on the registration and title. Just like it wasn't your money you took from my account. It was mine." Another silence, longer this time. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head as she processed what I was saying. This is because of the money? She finally asked, her voice smaller. You took my car because of the money? I didn't take your car, Amanda. I returned something that wasn't earned. Just like you took something that wasn't earned. I'm telling Mom and Dad. She threatened, her voice regaining its edge. They're going to be so mad at you. They already are. I said. But for once, I don't care. For once, actions in this family are going to have consequences. I hung up, turned off my phone, and tried to relax. It lasted about an hour before there was a pounding on my hotel room door. Somehow, they had found me. Probably by calling Marcus, who knew where I was staying. When I opened the door, all three of them burst in, Amanda, tear-streaked and furious, my father, red-faced with anger, my mother, pale and bewildered. What have you done? My father demanded. The dealership says you returned Amanda's car and took a check for it. I returned the car you bought, I corrected. And yes, I deposited the refund into a new account. That's theft, Amanda cried. You stole my car. Interesting perspective, I said, maintaining my calm. When I said the same thing about you taking my money, you all told me I was overreacting. That it was just money. That I should understand because we're family. This is completely different, my mother insisted. How? I challenged. How is it different? Amanda took something valuable from me without permission. I did the same to her. The only difference is that what she took was earned through years of hard work. What I took was handed to her for free. We're going to the police. My father threatened. This is grand theft auto. Go ahead, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice remained. And I'll go to the police about the $18,000 Amanda stole from me. We can let the legal system sort out which of us committed the more serious crime. That stopped them. They knew, as well as I did, that Amanda would face far more serious charges than I would. My parents exchanged worried glances. What do you want, Ethan? My father finally asked, his tone shifting from angry to negotiating. You've made your point. What will it take to resolve this? The full amount Amanda stole from me, I said without hesitation. Every penny of the $17,858. Not in installments. Not in promises. In full. That's ridiculous. Amanda protested. I don't have that kind of money. Then I guess you don't have a car either, I replied. Seems fair to me. My father tried a different approach. Ethan, be reasonable. We could give you $5,000 now, and work out a payment plan for the rest. I shook my head. That's not going to work this time, Dad. For once, Amanda is going to experience the full consequences of her actions. The full amount, or no deal. And if we pay you back? My mother asked quietly. You'll return the money from the car? No, I said firmly. That money stays where it is. Consider it 23 years of interest on all the times Amanda was given what she didn't earn, while I was denied what I did earn. My father's face darkened. Then we're at an impasse. Come on, he said to my mother and Amanda. We're leaving. And Ethan, you can consider yourself no longer part of this family until you return that money. I had expected anger, protests, tears. I hadn't expected this ultimate threat. For a moment my resolve wavered. Despite everything, these were my parents. This was my family. But then I looked at Amanda, still sniffling dramatically, showing no real remorse for what she had done to me. I looked at my parents, so quick to disown me for standing up for myself, after a lifetime of enabling Amanda's worst behaviors. If that's your choice, I said quietly, then I accept it. But I hope someday you'll understand that I'm not the one who broke this family. I'm just the first one who refused to keep playing by the broken rules. They left without another word, the door closing behind them with a finality that echoed in my chest. I sat down heavily on the hotel bed, simultaneously relieved and devastated. For the first time in my life, I had stood my ground against the toxic dynamics in my family. But the cost had been higher than I anticipated. I wondered if I had gone too far. if returning the car had been an overreaction. If I had just destroyed my family over money. Then I remembered that it wasn't about the money. It was about respect. About boundaries. About finally saying no to being treated as less than. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain: things would never be the same again. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't such a bad thing. For 2 weeks, the silence was complete. No calls, no texts, no emails from any family member. I moved back to my apartment but changed the locks, no longer comfortable with my parents having access. I returned to work, trying to focus on normal life while processing the emotional aftermath of what had happened. My friends rallied around me once they heard the full story. Marcus, who had initially been uncertain about my plan, now firmly supported my decision. "They're trying to guilt you into backing down," he said over beers one evening. "Classic manipulation tactic. They think if they freeze you out long enough, you'll cave and give back the car money without getting your savings back. You think that's what this is about?" I asked. "A power play?" 100%. Marcus nodded. "Your parents enabled Amanda her whole life. You've finally challenged that system. They're not going to give it up without a fight." Other friends offered similar perspectives. My roommate Kyle, who had witnessed firsthand my years of frugal living to save for a house, was particularly supportive. "Your sister's an adult," he pointed out. "Adults face consequences for their actions. If she'd stolen that money from a stranger instead of you, she'd be facing criminal charges right now." Their support strengthened my resolve, but it didn't completely erase the hollow feeling in my chest. These people were my family. Despite our dysfunctional dynamics, I loved them. The silence hurt more than I wanted to admit. Then, during the 3rd week, my phone rang with my cousin Diane's number. I hesitated before answering, suspecting she might be calling as a family emissary. "Ethan," she began cautiously, "I heard about what happened. Aunt Judy called my mom, who called me. And you're calling to tell me I should give the money back and apologize?" I guessed. "Actually, no," Diane surprised me. "I'm calling to say it's about time someone stood up to Amanda. She's been getting away with murder since we were kids. Remember when she ruined my prom dress by accident because she was jealous I was going with Ryan Mitchell?" I did remember. Amanda had spilled an entire glass of red wine on Diane's white dress the day of prom. My parents had paid for a replacement, but it wasn't the same, and Amanda had never faced any real consequences. The families divided on this. Diane continued. "Uncle Bob and Aunt Carol think you went too far with the car. But most of the cousins are Team Ethan. We've watched this pattern for years." It was strangely validating to hear that others in the extended family had noticed the disparity in how Amanda and I were treated. That I wasn't crazy or oversensitive for feeling it had been unfair. "Have you heard how they're doing?" I asked, hating the vulnerability in my voice. "Amanda's staying with your parents full-time now. She's been telling everyone who'll listen that you're a horrible brother who stole her car out of jealousy." Diane paused. "But I heard from my mom that your dad's been asking questions about how much the house she wants costs, so." That was interesting information. Were my parents considering buying Amanda a house to replace the car? Or were they planning to help her pay me back? The next day, I got my answer when Amanda herself showed up at my apartment door. I almost didn't recognize her at first. Her usually perfectly styled hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her designer clothes had been replaced by jeans and a plain t-shirt. She looked normal. "Can I come in?" she asked, none of her usual attitude in her voice. Cautiously, I stepped aside to let her enter. She sat on the edge of my couch, looking uncomfortable. "I'm here to make you an offer," she said without preamble. "I can give you $5,000 now. That's all I have in my savings. And then I can pay you $500 a month until it's paid off." I did the math quickly. At that rate, it would take over 2 years to repay the full amount. Where would the $500 a month come from? "You've never held a steady job." Amanda looked down at her hands. "I got a full-time position at the boutique. Assistant manager. I start next week. This was unexpected. Amanda, voluntarily taking a real job? What about the money you already have? The $5,000? It's what's left from my savings, she admitted. And I returned some of the stuff I bought. The ones I could, anyway. I studied her, looking for signs of the manipulation she'd perfected over the years. But she seemed genuinely subdued, even a little defeated. Why the change of heart? I asked. 2 weeks ago you were calling me a thief and threatening to go to the police. Amanda sighed. Brady broke up with me. He said he couldn't be with someone who would steal from their own brother. And then when I went crying to my friends, none of them took my side. Melissa even said she would have done the same thing you did. So this wasn't about genuine remorse. It was about social consequences, about losing her boyfriend and the sympathy of her friends. Still, it was something. A step at least. 5,000 now and 500 a month isn't going to work. I told her. That's way too long to pay back what you took. What else can I do? She asked, frustration edging into her voice. I don't have anything else. You have a lot of designer clothes, bags, jewelry. I pointed out. You could sell those. Those are mine, she protested. I've collected them for years. And my savings were mine. I countered. I collected those dollars for years. She fell silent, the parallel finally sinking in. Brady mentioned something else, she said after a moment. He said I might have a shopping addiction. That I spend money to feel better when I'm upset or insecure. This was surprisingly insightful coming from Amanda. And what do you think about that? She shrugged uncomfortably. Maybe he's right. I don't know. It's just, buying new things makes me feel good. Important. Like I matter. For the first time, I glimpsed something beneath Amanda's entitled exterior, a deep insecurity, a need for external validation that our parents' constant spoiling had never truly satisfied. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it helped me understand it a little better. I'll think about your offer, I told her. But in the meantime, you should maybe talk to someone professional about the shopping thing. If Brady's right, getting help might be good for you. Amanda nodded, standing to leave. At the door, she hesitated. Mom and Dad miss you, you know. They won't admit it, but they do. Dad keeps checking your Instagram to see if you're posting. I hadn't been posting anything, too wrapped up in the family drama to share my life online. But hearing that my parents were keeping tabs on me sparked a mix of emotions I wasn't ready to untangle. After Amanda left, I sat thinking about her offer. 5,000 now, 500 a month. It wasn't ideal, but it was an acknowledgement of the debt, a willingness to make amends. And if she was serious about the job, about getting help for her shopping issue, maybe this was a turning point for her. I was still pondering this when my phone rang again. This time, it was my father. Ethan, he said, his voice gruff with suppressed emotion. We need to talk. Your mother and I have been doing some thinking. And just like that, the family's silence was broken. Whatever came next, we were finally communicating again. It wasn't resolution, not yet. But it was a start. 1 month after I returned Amanda's car, we all gathered in my parents' living room for what felt like a family summit. The tension was palpable as we took our seats, my parents on the couch, Amanda in the armchair, me perched somewhat uncomfortably on the ottoman. We've had a lot of discussions over the past few weeks. My father began, clearing his throat. Your mother and I have done some serious reflection on how we've handled things, with both of you. My mother nodded, dabbing at her eyes with the tissue. It wasn't easy to hear, but your Aunt Carol made us see that we've been enabling Amanda's behavior for years. We thought we were helping her, but we were actually making things worse. I glanced at Amanda, expecting to see her usual defiant pout. Instead, she was looking down at her hands, fidgeting with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. Amanda has agreed to see a therapist, my father continued. She's had 3 sessions already. Dr. Bennett thinks she has some issues with impulse control and, what did he call it? Compulsive acquisition. Amanda supplied quietly. It's like a shopping addiction. I buy things to feel better about myself, but then I just feel worse and need to buy more stuff. This was a side of Amanda I'd never seen before. Vulnerable. Self-aware. Almost mature. We've also decided that Amanda needs to experience real consequences for her actions, my mother said. We've worked out a payment plan for her to repay every cent she took from you. My father handed me a folder containing a formal agreement. According to the document, Amanda would pay me $1,000 per month until the full $17,858 was repaid. The payments would come directly from her paychecks at the boutique, where she was now working full-time. We're not subsidizing this, my father emphasized. The money comes from Amanda's earnings, not from us. We've also stopped paying for her apartment. She's moving into a cheaper place with a roommate next month. I looked at the agreement, then at Amanda. You're okay with this? She nodded, meeting my eyes directly. It's fair. What I did was wrong. Really wrong. I'm sorry, Ethan. I never should have taken your money. The apology caught me off guard. In 23 years, I could count on one hand the number of times Amanda had sincerely apologized for anything. And what about the car money? My mother asked tentatively. We understand why you did what you did, Ethan. But that money rightfully belongs to your father and me. I had anticipated this question. I've put that money into a separate account, I explained. I haven't touched it. But I'd like to propose a compromise. I outlined my suggestion. The car money would be held in trust, released to my parents only after Amanda had repaid me in full. It would serve as both insurance against her defaulting on our agreement and motivation for her to follow through. That seems reasonable, my father agreed after some thought. We trust that you'll keep your word. Just like I'm trusting that Amanda will keep hers, I pointed out. With the financial matters settled, an awkward silence fell over the room. There was still so much unresolved emotional territory between us. Years of favoritism, resentment, and broken trust couldn't be fixed with a single agreement. I think we also owe you an apology, Ethan, my mother said softly. We've always expected more from you because you seemed so capable, so independent. But that wasn't fair. We should have held both our children to the same standards. And we should have respected your boundaries, my father added. What Amanda did was serious, and we minimized it. We're sorry. I hadn't expected this level of acknowledgement from my parents. For years, I'd wanted them to see the disparity in how they treated us. Now that they finally did, I wasn't sure how to respond. Thank you, I said simply. That means a lot to me. Over the next several months, our family began the slow process of healing. Amanda made her payments faithfully each month, sometimes adding extra when she picked up additional shifts at the boutique. Her therapy seemed to be helping. She talked more openly about her insecurities and was learning healthier ways to cope with negative emotions than shopping. My parents made efforts to treat us more equally. They stopped offering Amanda financial bailouts and began respecting my boundaries in ways they never had before. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it was more honest than it had ever been. 6 months after our agreement, I finally had enough saved again for a house down payment. I found a modest 3-bedroom in a nice neighborhood, with a fenced yard and a small garden. At my housewarming party, my family arrived with thoughtful gifts, practical items for my new home, not extravagant displays. As we sat on my new patio, enjoying the summer evening, my father raised his glass in a toast. To Ethan, he said, who taught us all an important lesson about consequences, boundaries, and respect. Amanda, now 18 months sober from shopping, added her own toast. And to second chances. Thanks for giving me one, even when I didn't deserve it. Looking around at my family, I realized we had all grown from this experience. Amanda was developing responsibility and self-awareness. My parents were learning to parent both children fairly. And I had found my voice, my boundaries, and my worth. The money had been important, yes. But what I had really been fighting for was something more valuable: respect. The recognition that my feelings, my work, my dreams mattered just as much as Amanda's. That lesson, painful as it had been to learn, had transformed our family dynamics for the better. As I settled into my new home, I installed a state-of-the-art security system. No spare keys hidden anywhere. No written pins. I didn't expect Amanda to revert to her old ways, but the experience had taught me the importance of protecting what I'd worked hard to build. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been moments when I questioned whether returning Amanda's car had been too extreme, whether the rift it created in our family had been worth it. But looking back, I realized it had been necessary. Sometimes, the only way to break destructive patterns is through decisive action that cannot be ignored or minimized. In the end, what mattered wasn't the money or the car. What mattered was that for the first time, our family was building relationships based on mutual respect rather than enabling and entitlement. We were learning that true love requires both compassion and accountability. That healthy boundaries aren't just protective barriers, they're the foundation of genuine connection. So what do you think? Have you ever had to take drastic measures to stand up for yourself against family members who took advantage of you? Would you have done what I did, or handled it differently? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found value in my story, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences and lessons learned the hard way. Don't forget to share this video with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to stand up for themselves, even against family. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes love means setting boundaries that others won't like, but that everyone needs.